Was it okay that I ate before?
Yeah, dude.
Okay, all right. I thought you had
Uh,
mentioned that, and I was just like, I'm just gonna eat. I
no,
don't know,
you should
like,
eat. It's just a little bit harder because these chilaquiles are larger than my face.
yeah.
Hey there, and welcome to Takeout and Talk, a new series from Cocina MSNS Media where culture's always on the menu, even if it arrives in a paper box. I'm Xorje Olivares, and today I'm joined by a fellow fronterizo, which means somebody else who's originally from the US Mexico border, and that is illustrator Zeke Peña. Now, Zeke is a Chicano visual storyteller, as he describes himself, who is originally from El Paso. I'm from another EP town called Eagle Pass, also in Texas. And a lot of his background is incorporated into his work. Primarily, a lot of the stuff that he's illustrated has to do with the Chicano or the Latinx experience. In fact, he won an award for a book called My Papi Has a Motorcycle, and he's also done some work for the Miles Morales Spider Man series. But his latest is called Sundust, and it evokes a lot of the imagery that he knows well coming from El Paso, talking about a desert landscape. And it's a children's book that goes into a lot of the imagery and the stories that we know to be true when we're from that region of the country. So we'll talk about this visualization that he has, not only of the border, but of the world at large. We'll talk about his family and how parenthood has affected his, what he calls, visual vocabulary. And we'll definitely talk about Mexican food, because how can we not as fronterizos? So excited to welcome Zeke to the program. So, Zeke, thank you so much for joining me here as we have a, not only are we meeting for the first time, but what better way to meet for the first time than to eat together for the first time?
Yeah.
So, uh, thank you for joining me for this inaugural meeting slash meal of ours. I'm excited for us to chat about your work and for everything you've had a chance to do.
Yeah. Thanks for the invitation. And yeah, it's really special to share, a meal with someone. So I'm excited to do that with you.
And I love that both of us have similar meals. Granted, we're eating right now at different parts of the day. I'm currently
Hmm.
on the West
Yeah.
Coast. It's a little bit earlier in the morning. It's about lunchtime for you.
Mhm.
So, if you could share with our listeners and viewers, what are you eating with us today?
Yeah. So today, it's a new taqueria that just opened up. So I'm in Northwest Arkansas. We've been living here for about 5 years. And where we live, there isn't a whole lot of Mexican food. It's a little bit of like a 15-20 minute drive from where we're at. And so this taqueria just opened up. They have another spot north of us as well, and it's called Taqueria Lucha. And Taqueria Lucha, from there, I ordered just their taco, tres tacos. I got carne asada, dos de carne asada, and then un taco de pastor, and then
Yeah.
a side of beans. I like to have beans on the side, but yeah.
Okay. One, did they give you enough lime for your tacos? Because I feel like that's always something that we have to be concerned about.
I'm a medium lime user. My wife is on 11 with lime all the time. So it's like, they gave me they gave me two wedges for
Okay.
three. They're son taquitos, like they're not like super big tacos. So I think I'm good with the lime, yeah.
Okay, nice. I will say, especially having seen your tacos, that
Yeah.
the chilaquiles that I ordered are
Oof.
like three times the size of these tacos. So let me see if folks can see these
Yeah, like,
chilaquiles.
and you got the egg on top, scrambled egg?
So not only is there egg, there's chicken, there's
Okay.
obviously the pickled onions. There's
Mhm.
so much to this meal that I guarantee I'm probably going to finish like a third of it. But it's from this place called Al Carajo, which is in the Mission
Okay.
District here in San Francisco. So you know that it's going to be appropriate and made with a lot of love and care from my fellow Mexicanos.
Mm,
I've had this place before. They're known for their breakfast burrito, but this is the first time I'm eating their chilaquiles.
okay.
And just by the look of it, I know I'm in for quite a treat. But
Mm.
I will say, I love that both of us, because you could take the kids out of the border, but you can't take the border out of the kids. So I love that
For sure,
both
yeah.
you and I, who are fronterizos, meaning we are
Mhm.
from the US Mexico border, we have gravitated towards Mexican food today. I feel like
Yeah.
there's something really fun about that.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, wherever we go, it's what I'm looking for all the time, right? Is like the comfort food, right? And as I mentioned before, it was kind of tough when we moved here because there weren't that many spots. Unfortunately, it's kind of changing. And then you kind of find these little pockets of community, right? Because raza's everywhere. You just got to find it. And so we kind of, sought some stuff out, and we know our little spots. We have a tamale place now to go to. And yeah, but this taqueria place, it's the closest place. And I've had it before. I was cheating a little bit. So I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm getting.
You're like, this will
They're
be
delicious tacos. Yeah.
yeah. I did mention both of us are originally from the US Mexico border. Both
Right.
of us come from places that are labeled EP. So
Hmm.
I'm from a town called Eagle Pass, which is a bit further
Yes.
down on the
Hmm.
border than where you're originally from, which is El Paso,
Hmm.
but a similar EP. So
Hmm.
how is that? I mean, you talked a little bit about you can find raza anywhere. It's been 5 years you've lived in Arkansas. Does the heart still miss El Paso from time to time?
I mean, it's constant. It's missing family. We don't have any family here, which is like a really big thing. But yeah, I miss being there. The climate, the dry desert climate. When I tell people where I'm from here, there ever someone usually has a connection with El Paso, like, yeah, oh, I know this person that's there, or our family, that's where we crossed, or like that's where we live first, or like there's always this like connection to El Paso that I really like. That it can be such a small isolated place, but there be all these connections to it. Yeah.
Hmm. Now, something I did not know is that El Paso is called the Sun City, which
Yes.
I guess I mean it's difficult if you're not in of that area to know sort of the nomenclature tied to these regions. But it feels quite appropriate that your debut book as a writer and illustrator is called Sun Dust. So, if you can talk a little bit about the genesis of this book and maybe the influence that El Paso, the Sun City, has on Sundust.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, so it is called the Sun City, and there's just like a lot of sun, right? Like anyone in the desert knows that it's just the sun is so present in our lives, and it's so for good and for bad, right? Like when you're younger, you're
Hmm.
outside and you're just like sweating, and it's just like
Yeah.
super hot, and always trying to find the shade or trying to find some water or whatever. And so it's a big part of our lives in that way. And Sundust, it's my first solo book, first time I've illustrated and written the words. And it's an ode to my home. It's an ode to the Sun City. It's an ode to people who grew up there, but it's also an ode to just like people from the region, people who are there, live in the desert or are from the desert. And that's like a really massive part of our country that I think that the desert for me, a lot of the times in picture books, it gets somewhat a little bit tokenized, or it gets put in the background a lot, right? Like it's like
Hmm.
this, like I'm gonna put a cute cactus right here, or like I'm gonna put this thing over here, which is like I love it. I'm like, yeah, it's cute, fun, all of that. But I guess I wanted to like address it in kind of a more intentional way, I think, and in a little bit more connected way for me. And so it tells a story. We go on a cosmic walk through the desert with two siblings. And so the seed of the story comes from my childhood. It comes from growing up and playing in the desert all day, every day after school, both days of the weekend. Like we were just outside playing in the desert all the time. And so it was a really special time in my life. And these characters, they're inspired by things that come from my life. I also separate myself from the characters in my book so that they can kind of do their own thing.
Hmm.
And so yeah, you kind of go on a walk, and the characters see something fall from the sky, and it gets fantastic, right? They go chasing this thing in the sky, and it just kind of gets fantastic. And there's a touch of sci-fi. I love sci-fi, and so I wanted to hide some little like sci-fi things in the book in there. And there's something else going on, which I'll just be upfront about, which is like it's a book about the border. It's a border book.
Hmm.
But it's a border book that doesn't just focus on one thing, right? It's a border book that doesn't flatten my city and my people into being one thing, which is about immigration or about the border, so-called war, right? Or, all of these things. So it's like it's about the joy of living in the space where we live and that connection that we have to it and what it does for us culturally and as individuals and stuff. And then that beautiful special relationship that everyone on our planet has with the sun, which is it's the giver of life. It's the thing that gives us energy. It's where we come from. And so just kind of reminiscing on that a little bit. And the language is very lyrical. It's very sparse and lyrical. I come from like, writing freestyles and hip hop and lyrics and stuff and poetry and prose and spoken word, and so it has that tone to it. um, but yeah, there's something in there even for people who don't, they're not from the desert. It's just about place and walking around outside and enjoying being outside at the core of it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's so much I can say here because,
Yeah, go.
uh,
Sorry, I ramble.
no,
I'm
no,
gonna
no.
take a bite of this taco. Can I? Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
eat your
munch on it.
taco,
All right,
dude.
yeah. All right,
Eat the
yeah.
carne asada, put the lime on
All
there.
right.
I will say, so there's a lot of things that are already sticking out to me. The first being that, as somebody who also grew up in a very desert area, trying to explain to people, like, hey, during PE class, we would have to wait because tumbleweeds, huge tumbleweeds,
Yo, yeah.
and dirt devils, which are like these little
Yeah.
tornadoes of the sand, of the dirt, of the desert, kind of whirl up, and it would be a little dangerous for us. But like
The dirt's
cactus,
like in your eyes, right? Like you can feel it in your
yeah,
teeth. Yeah.
it's just it encompasses all of your life. So even just having that bit of nostalgia and remembrance of growing up in the desert is there. I also love that you talk about the sort of the love letter to the region, because it is true that when you are from the border, you understand that unfortunately there has been this politicization of a place that is your home. And it's hard to explain to people, no, 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 you're seeing all this stuff on TV. Okay, but it's different. It's different when you're from there. It's a lot of like going to paleterias, going to get pan dulce, going to hang out with your friends at the lake, going to like other other parts of living that
Right.
people don't quite get or can't quite make the connection to, because there's this whole narrative about the border, about El Paso, about Juarez, which is the town
Right.
across from El Paso in Mexico.
Right.
Um, so I love that this is a leap into, like
Hmm.
you said, the fantastical, but also the for those of us who love the region, an opportunity to really showcase the magical of
Hmm.
the magic of El Paso, the border, and the desert, and places
Hmm.
that are very much like that.
Yeah.
So all of this is
And,
is already
I
coming to
mean,
me.
yeah, like thanks for bringing that part up because it's really was at the, it was part of my intention, right? Was to offer something different, right? Like to offer something up that was also from made by someone who's from there, right? We have other books by picture books by people who are from the border. I'm not saying that I'm the first one at all, but just like centering that story and centering that identity and centering that place and centering that culture and all of that, right? Because there is just so much noise that goes around, and you say the border. I told someone the other day that I was from where I was from, and they were like, "Oh, it's just so dangerous," and they were fearful. They were just like, you could see the bodily like fear, and
Hmm.
I don't hold that against them because they are being the image that is being given to them via media, movies, literally everything is very flat. It's not that all of this stuff is not necessarily happening. It's that it's just a really flat and reduced viewpoint of like where our people come from. And it's just more
Hmm.
complicated than that. We're called the sister cities, right? Like El Paso and Ciudad Juarez are the sister cities. Like we live in an area and in a city that was one city at one point. It was one
Hmm.
place. And so you can't really like pull that apart. So it's, you know, there are drastic differences between one side and the other. Obviously, they're two different countries, two different governments, all these things. But it's really just to say that, you know, to hopefully offer nuance and joy to something that doesn't always get the privilege of that because of the other stuff that's
Yeah.
being said about our area. Yeah.
I love how you describe it as like a flat understanding of where we're
Mm.
from. I mean, it makes sense that an illustrator, somebody with a design background, has like descriptive language at the
It's like,
ready.
yeah, it's like a physical, like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, sorry, yeah.
no, no,
I'm
no,
like thinking in 3D all the time, yeah.
but I love that, and I mean, in keeping with that, as you were starting to put together Sundust and thinking of the images you wanted to include in the book, like what were the things that you knew had to have been included because it was the most easily accessible to you as an illustrator from this part of the country?
So to call out specific things, and a really important one, which is the nopal, right? The nopal cactus has strong cultural significance. It has, I mean, spiritual significance. It has practical, significance in terms of being a lifeline for the desert, right? It's where water was found.
Hmm.
But just also regionally, right? Like it doesn't have to be that deep. It's also just that really the really first layer is just like there's a lot of cactus in El Paso, and they're there, and so it's a part of having it there. And I love that there can be layers in that, right? Like someone doesn't have to know all of this stuff to enjoy the book. It's just like there are just layers to it, and you can tap in where you need to tap into. Another one that I would say that like had to be in there was maybe to the detriment of the creative process because I was so like this has to be in there. Was the rock wall? We, excuse me, we have these really unique rock walls where we come from. I'm not sure if this is the case in Eagle Pass, but um, they're just it's on the cover. They're just rock walls. They're put together with concrete, and rock, and so it's also like somewhat of like a sustainable way of like making kind of a rascuache way, of making
Mm.
walls, and making structures. And the wall was in the back of our house, and they're all over the city. Those and cinderblock walls, and yeah, I think those like symbols, like someone. I was thinking of this thing while I was making the book, which was I wanted someone to feel their scraped knee when they looked at the rock wall. Because like when you every time you're like hopping over these rock walls as a kid, it's like you're like like scraping your knee and like bleeding and
Yeah.
stuff. And there's just like a muscle memory to that or something, right? Like it just held this special memory for me. Like, oh, I just remember like getting scabs and stuff from jumping the wall,
Hmm.
the special way you have to climb them and things like that. There is a plant that is really special in there. That's a sacred plant. The gobernadora, as it's referred to. I use the common name, which is creosote, in the book, and but on the more surface level, is it's the plant that gives our desert the special smell of rain. So when it rains in our area, it has this just amazing, beautiful scent when you go outside, and it's because this plant gets wet and it exudes this like this smell, so in the book
Hmm.
it's calm. The line is calmed by the shade and the smell of rain, because when it rains it's just like this really calming smell. So yeah, those are a couple things, yeah.
Ah, I love it. I feel like I mean, I must call attention to the fact that, especially because I haven't lived on the border full time in several years, that a lot of the memories
Hmm.
I'm harkening back to are from my youth.
Hmm.
And it makes sense that I'm responding to a book that is designated for youth,
Hmm.
for like 4 to 8 years old. Like that, this is where I'm making correlations.
Yeah.
So, if you could talk a little bit about the fact that this is a book intended for um, kids and
Hmm.
people who are in no way have the same experience as you and I do right now.
Yeah, I mean, our young people are living in a completely different world that we're living in, and I'm not ever going to make a claim to understand it. I don't think I understand it. I don't think I have anything to teach any young people. I'm not coming from a didactic place of trying to teach anyone anything. It's really just trying to offer someone an experience, right? It's like I'm trying to invite people to go on the walk with these two characters. And that's just really as simple as that. Like come on the walk and then see what you see, and you don't have to see everything. And hopefully it's an enjoyable walk. And then what I would say I hope resonates with young people, maybe the one thing I am maybe trying to impart is just a small reminder to dream wildly, right? Like to dream absurdly and wildly and fantastically. I think that this is me as an adult, we're in a time where we're like on our phones a lot, and we're like in our algorithm waves, our streams, and like, you know, we we're following that. It's like
Hmm.
we're in a reactive place. And I think that when we're dreaming and when we're uh, daydreaming and things like that, and making connections when we're outside and stuff, it's generative. Like we're generating something. And I watched my nephews, who I'm super close with, and my nieces. All of them like lose this sense of when I would continue to put a blank page in front of them to sit down and draw with them. It starts to get more and more restricted as they get older. As they get into middle school, I'm like not drawing certain things, or like,
Hmm.
so it's like it's kind of we lose touch with that part. And so I hope that readers of any age would be able to kind of like tap into that dreamy state of being. Yeah.
So I'll say, granted, a completely different type of creative than the creativity that you pursue.
Mhm.
I'm curious about how your creativity was received by your family,
Hmm.
and this skill that you had to be able to illustrate, have visual storytelling as part of what you wanted to do with your life.
It was always supported. Like my parents were very supportive. Because when I say the next thing, I don't want it to sound like they weren't supportive of me, and my creativity, because they were super supportive. Like I think both of my parents recognized that I could, draw pretty well. But I would say I did grow up in a family, I think like many folks, where it was really important for me to get a good job. It's important for me to get a job so that I could pay, for myself and for my family if I decided to have a family. And so that was always really, really important, because it's what was important to both my parents and especially my dad. My dad had grinded all his life, just like working jobs for other people and stuff. And he had this one brief moment where he tried to open up his own thing, and then it didn't work out, and so that the sense of enjoying what you're doing, but also knowing that you have a responsibility to like provide for yourself and for your family was always present. So when I was going through school, it was like I was trying to get creative adjacent. I was like,
Hmm.
how can I do something creative, but is like would seem viable as like a career. I chose architecture. My dad was the one that put that seed in my head. It was like architecture, engineer. I think if you're coming out of El Paso, it's like engineer, architecture. Engineer is like the main one. Like everyone's parents want
Hmm.
them to be an engineer, and so which I think is great. But I think for me, it just kind of didn't work out. But anyways, I studied architecture, and then I just went on this really winding path of doing all these other things, and creative things, and then some not creative things. And so I I had to sometimes there was a brief period where I had to kind of like fight for that support, and just like trust that I was going to be able to like do something with what I envisioned I was going to do. Um and and yeah, but my father has since passed on, but my mom has just always just been such a huge supporter of me, and like supported the projects that I do, and just like just really loving and caring and compassionate and trusting that I'm going to do the things I need to do to provide for my family and stuff. And so that's like is a big part of like why I'm able to do what I do, is
Yeah.
that support. But yeah, it was well received, I should say, with the exception of like you got to get a job too, though. Like don't the yeah, I didn't have the courage to tell them that I wanted to go be an artist. That just like what I wasn't even an option for me, even though I did that in high school. I was like, I know I can't tell them that. I know I can't do that. So I'm gonna go do this other stuff. This is the thing that you're supposed to do. So yeah.
Hmm. But I mean, I love that you said your mom trusted you to be able
Yeah.
to figure out for yourself what the path was going to look like, how you were going to embark on that path, the choices that you had to make, and you've made some pretty fantastic choices. I mean, you are award-winning illustrator. You've had a chance, even though Sundust is your debut writer illustrator
Hmm.
book.
Hmm.
You've illustrated for a lot of other books. You've
Hmm.
received awards for those books. Um, how has that felt, knowing that you have been able to make a career and a name for yourself and have established yourself pursuing this thing that your family was able to trust you to do?
Gratitude to do it. and grateful, for the privilege to do it, having my parents' support, because that's not something that everyone gets. This gratitude, it gives me with a sense of responsibility. I think that because I have that privilege, there's a sense of responsibility to my community, to my family, that like I am a good storyteller. I can say that confidently now. I'm a good storyteller visually and with the word, and I'm good at holding the pen, but it's not my pen to hold, it's everyone's pen, and so I'm just like good at holding it, and so I'm fine with people telling me what to draw with it. And so sometimes I think it's really important for me to practice that, right? Like just hearing
Hmm.
from community saying like, "Hey, we need this. Can you help us? Can you do this?" Like, "Yes. All right. Let me draw this." So yeah.
I will say what you just said was like a drop the mic moment. The like everybody's holding the pen is like, oh, this guy clearly has some freestyling background, as he mentioned he does.
Yeah, I should have riffed on that. Yeah. You
That
should have
was so
thrown a
good.
bar at me. Yeah.
Next time, when I'm
Okay,
a little
yeah.
bit more prepared.
Okay, yeah.
How would you describe your approach to visual storytelling? How would you describe the graphics that is now very much a Zeke Peña original?
Yeah, I mean, I think I use a lot of symbology. I use a lot of iconography. I'm coming from a I practiced graphic design for a really long time in El Paso. Like I was, making billboards and menus and logos and just like really graphic design core stuff. Just like the real basic stuff, and then some really fun stuff too. But I think that practice was priceless because when you're doing graphic design, it's also visual storytelling. You're showing something visually and trying to summon a response or engagement or things like that. And so I utilize similar ways of communicating and composition and things. And then as time moves on, I've built my visual library. What's referred to as like your visual library. So I've how many times have I drawn this thing? So many times. And so it's just in my brain now and I can just draw it. And so it takes time to build that. And so that kind of vocabulary, visual vocabulary. But yeah, I feel like I've spelt out a pretty solid language. And I always say that, I'm speaking in a language for my community. The language of my community, and it's not to say that other people can't understand that. It's not to
Hmm.
say that other people can't benefit from looking at my work. It's just to say that I know where I'm from, and I know like my community, and I'm just trying to communicate to that small circle in the hope that it resonates in those broader circles. Yeah, as a storyteller.
Because you mentioned a little bit about you have this visual vocabulary that you can always go back to,
Hmm.
especially when you're drawing. Would you say that how has fatherhood impacted that visual vocabulary? Do you
Ooh.
draw differently? Do you have different images that you've now incorporated into your repertoire now that you are a father?
That's a beautiful question. I've had a similar question since I've become a father. My son is 3 and a toddler, and I'm like exhausted. We were up all night last night. It's like up.
Oh
We're
no.
frequently waking up at night and stuff. But I mean, in terms of like my craft and my practice, there are ways that it's affecting me that I'm not aware of. Certainly, subconscious ways. I think that as just like having an impact on my work. I think consciously and like intentionally, um, I'm I'm really I'm really aware of like clarity. That's the word I was looking for. I'm like really aware of like clarity. My son has a disability. My son has Down syndrome and is nonverbal, and is we have a really unique communication. Uh, we have really unique communication language in our household, right? And it has made me had to unpack. I've had to unpack the way that I understand language, visual language and written language, in a way that I never would have before. Being a father itself, that makes us do it as like, I think parenthood in itself makes us unpack so many things, and it would make us unpack language in that way as well. But I think this additional special thing that my son has, which I see as a blessing, and something amazing, and the unexplainableness is like sacred to me, right? That it has challenged me and my wife in ways, and and our family in ways that we didn't think we were going to have to grow in, you know? And so it's just really nice to like have that objectivity, because you get locked into doing something for as long as I've been doing it, right? I've been doing it for years, my whole life I've been drawing, and you get like locked in a way of doing it. And so now I'm like, oh wait, like I need to check this out. Like how does this communicate, or how does this do this thing? Also not thinking about it too much, like he gets it, and like we communicate with our eyes, and we communicate with our emotions and our bodies, and like the amount of intuition he has for emotion and language and communication is just crazy. I'm like, whoa, like this is like another level of communication that I think we get so focused on like words and sounds, even that like he's picking up on like my heart rate going up, like he's picking up on
Hmm.
like these little tiny things. So it's like it's really beautiful to have something that I maybe thought I had a handle on, to make me understand it as being something even more complex than what it was before, is just really beautiful. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
special.
Thank you for sharing that, and I appreciate you
Yeah.
sort of opening up and sharing that part of your experience.
Yeah, thank
I, I say this as somebody who's not a parent, but I feel like
you.
3 seems like a really great age. Like
Mm.
they're starting to get to know themselves, starting to figure out the world around them. Um,
Opinions, the
yeah,
opinions.
they've
Yeah.
got things they want to convey to the world.
Yeah.
And we did mention that Sundust is geared towards a
Mhm.
younger audience, 4 to 8.
Right. Mhm.
Do you see yourself, especially as your son is growing into that demographic,
Mhm.
are you gonna are you gonna stick in that space? Do you wanna kind of not limit yourself as to where the art takes you?
I I'm open to all of it, really. I have had the interest of going into like middle grade. I haven't made a fully middle grade project yet, which is like middle school age, and young, older elementaries. Kids can sometimes get into like chapter books, and or older chapter books and stuff. I'm interested in seeing what that's like, because I think that sometimes the humor and the stories that I write are probably better for that age. But I love making work at the picture book level. Like it's just so like I don't want to say like pure, but it's just so like connected to like visual storytelling and cartooning, specifically like comics and cartooning, that I love making work in that space. And I should mention I have another book that's actually about a parent, a father, and their child, and it's about language. It's about them acquiring it. It's written by an author, Randy Rebai, and also going to be published by Coquila, who published Sundust. And so, yeah, I'm working on a couple other ones. So I will for sure be making picture books still, but I'm very interested in like trying out some other stuff.
Nice. Well, so folks can keep up with when this book comes out and also how they can purchase Sundust and some of your other work. How can folks be able to do that and engage with Zeke Peña's original work?
Yeah, thank you. So ZP Visual is my thing on all the platforms. So Instagram is the one that I primarily post stuff on and post work on. On my Instagram, there's a link tree. You can find some links to stuff. You can also check out zpvisual.com or setapevisual.com. And yeah, on my website, I have links to purchase things and or just look at things. There's a lot of free comics on there that I've made over the years, and all my work spanning in many different platforms and mediums and stuff. And then yeah, for the book stuff, I'll mostly post stuff on there, but that publisher will be with Coquila, which is Penguin Young Readers, and yeah, you can find their stuff online. And then I would say Sundust hopefully is available in your independent bookstore for purchase, or hopefully at your public library too. So yeah.
Nice. I feel like I'd be well. One, I appreciate that you hit him with the bilingual, with the with
Yeah,
how
yeah,
folks
yeah.
can find your the website. As we end, and because I'm going to pick your brain as an illustrator, what color would you use to describe our conversation?
Whew. I'm gonna go with what came to me first. It would be green. I didn't even think about it, and it was green that popped up. So I'll just go with the vibes. Yeah, it was a green. It was like a not like nice middle kind of olive green, or like a leafy green, not super bright green, but like, yeah,
Okay,
but
and if
bright,
you're
but bright. Yeah,
And
go.
if you're watching this, it's essentially the color of Zeke's cap.
I mean,
Um,
I was actually gonna reference my cap, but probably brighter than this though, like greener green than
well, let
this.
me tell you, that is
It's a good jumping
genuinely
off
my
point. Yeah.
favorite color. Olive
Oh, is it
green
really? No way.
is everything. I mean, I'm wearing blue
Okay.
today, but for
Yeah.
the most part, if somebody were to use a color to describe me, they would almost always go with olive green.
Hey, well, look, you're carrying the vibe.
Look at that,
I
man.
was just like on for the ride. Like, yeah, I super appreciate that.
Well, you won't see us in olive green with the exception of Zeke's cap. But for those of you who are watching this, or even if you're listening to this, please go to the wearecocina.com website because you'll see images of the food that we ordered, the tacos that Zeke ordered in Arkansas, the chilaquiles that I ordered from Al Carajo here in San Francisco. You'll be able to read more of our conversation. And if you actually want to see this, just go to starpicks.tv, which is StarPicks.tv. And you can follow us on all socials at We Are Cocina and myself at Jorge O, XORJEO. But Zeke, man, this has been a lot of fun. And I appreciate you taking the time and you sharing your work with us here today.
Yeah, Jorge, thank you so much. I appreciate it. The tacos, thank you for the tacos and the time and the place to speak. Yeah, this is really beautiful. I'm in my studio a lot by myself, so sharing some space with someone else while I eat was very appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And let's see, let's see. If you haven't finished, we should probably finish now. I
Okay,
mean,
yeah, I got a
there's
couple more bites over here.
Takeout and Talk is a Cocina and Mecenas media production. It's hosted and produced by me, Xorje Olivares. Special thanks to Mecenas Chief Creative Officer, Sarah North, and its Head of O&O and Audience Development, Laura Del Progetto. For more Takeout and Talk, visit our YouTube page or wearecocina.com.